Okay, so the lesson that we're going to do today for parenting is about sequencing. Sequencing is putting things in order. Okay, so some of the past lessons we've talked about the different skills you can work on while reading with your child. So today is sequencing. We're going to talk about the importance of the order of the story. Okay, why do you think that would be important? Why does the order of the story matter?
Because then the story won't make sense if it's not in order.
Very good. So if your story is all mixed up and out of order, is the story going to make sense? No. So sequence is a really important part when you're reading or when you're putting a story together or even having them retell the story, because if things are out of order, it's not going to make sense and it's not going to flow and go together. Okay. So to kind of start off with sequencing, I'm going to have you do a little activity. I want you to think of activities that you do for your morning routine. Okay, so as soon as you get up in the morning, think of the first 3 things you do. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 sticky notes each. On each sticky note, you're going to write one of those activities.
For us, not
Yes,
for the
for you.
kids.
For you.
Okay.
Okay?
I know what they are.
Well, what if my first 3 things involve her?
That's okay.
Oh my God, I get up an hour before I wake him up.
I don't.
3 separate things we do.
Yep, 3 separate things that you do.
In first, second, third?
Yep.
Okay.
Does turning your alarm off count as one?
Start once you get up.
I need one more.
You want 2?
Oh wait, no, I have 3.
Okay.
I don't know. The first thing I do.
You don't have to.
One is.
Miranda, you're writing a book over there.
It's the first thing I do. And then the second thing is to go to the other kid's room.
Okay, so while she's finishing, I have a chart here that is labeled first, next, and then. So going along with sequencing, we're going to put them in order. Okay, so of your 3 notes, you're going to put whatever you do first goes under the first column, whatever is your next thing that you do goes under next, and then whatever is your last thing, or your 3rd thing you do will go under then. So that would be your next thing. Okay, so you can stick those on there a while. Put your initial on them. So
I'm gonna
they're-
write mine so you can actually read it. Then I'll just stick it on there.
So that's number 1.
Don't judge me. I always brush my hair as soon as I wake up.
Not me running hit the bathroom. I'm on the.
I'll be in my hair. I be having like a whole afro by the time I wake up.
I don't even know how to spell. I think it's 2 of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My initials. And
Your
one.
initials.
Put your initials on so I know when I go over and use this.
You are all staring at me and it's giving me the creeps.
Just
You're
waiting.
the center of attention.
I hate that.
All right, so let's take a look at our chart. So our first things that people do: go to the bathroom, use the bathroom, brush hair, make coffee, put coffee on. Okay, so it looks like A lot of people use the bathroom, make coffee as their first thing when they get up. Next, okay, make coffee, check on daughter, pray, praise, and thank God, and wake the kids. Okay, so 2 dealing with the kids there. So there's some things you do before you get your kids, right? Then, so your third thing that you do, have a cigarette, get breakfast, read my Bible, and feed the cat. Okay, so if you were to mix these things up, so think about the third thing that you have on here. If you were to do that first instead of the first thing you do, would that make a difference in your routine?
Yes.
Would it kind of throw things off a little bit?
Yes.
So the sequence of the things that you do in the morning, there's a reason for that, right? Okay, like I heard you mention earlier, if you don't use the bathroom first thing when you get up, it's going to be a problem, right?
Right, and I'd never go downstairs for a cigarette before I went to bed.
Right. So you mixing up the order, the
Yeah.
sequence of what you're doing, that would make a big difference in
Yes.
your routine in the morning. Okay? So that can kind of help show you the importance of sequencing. Okay?
Yeah.
Whether it's with your routine, whether it's reading a book, no matter what you do when you have something in order or something in sequence, that sequence is a big deal. Because if you mix the things up in the sequence, it's going to throw everything off.
The reason why I feed my cat is because while I'm making my coffee, the cat food is right there. She circles my legs, but I have to wake the kids up because I'm always running late, but I cannot do it without my coffee to deal with my children. So then I wake the kids up and then I feed the cat when the kids are off to school.
I get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I do not get him up till 8 o'clock.
Oh,
The
see,
first hour is mine.
Yeah.
no.
Everybody leave me alone and we'll get along.
No, see, they get
And we
shipped
wanna
off to school
talk.
and then I'm by myself.
Okay, so let's take a look at the parenting handout. We're going to kind of walk through this one a little bit more paragraph by paragraph so we can talk about each part a little bit. So I want you to take a minute, just read the first paragraph for right now. So under the central ideas and practice, I want you just to read that first paragraph, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, so this is just kind of reviewing what we've just talked about. So sequencing is what? Order, okay, of which events or actions happen. Why is it important?
We'll get out. We have
It
to.
throws everything off if you.
Right, so it makes it clear what happened first, what happened then, next, so on. And it's important because it'll throw everything off if we get out of sequence.
The
So,
whole day.
okay, read the second paragraph. And read paragraph 2, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so in that paragraph, it's talking about how sequence is also important for nonfiction text or nonfiction things. So, what are some examples in there that they give us where sequence is important when dealing nonfiction? Recipes. So that's something maybe we didn't think about, you know, in what we've been talking about. But that's a really good example because if you don't follow the steps in a recipe or add the things, the amount that's supposed to be added at the right time, that can really mess up the results of what you're making, can't it? So that's really important. What's another example?
Historical events?
Okay, historical events. Why is that important?
Because if you do that out of order, then, well, it doesn't follow.
It would affect the future, wouldn't it? If,
Yeah.
like, history would have been mixed up from what it is
Yeah.
now. That would have changed our future, right? There's one more example in there.
Science experiment. Yeah.
Science experiments. Okay, so if you think about doing a science experiment, if you do your steps out of order for your experiment,
You might have a different outcome.
you're going to have a way different outcome, right? So there again, very good examples of why sequencing is important. The next paragraph just tells us that there's certain words that when you're reading that can give you clues as to the sequence of something. Now, not all stories do this, but some of them will. They'll use those keywords to clue you in. What are some examples of words that might tell you sequencing? And I've already given you a couple. First. Okay, that's a good one.
Beginning,
Beginning.
end,
End.
Middle.
Middle.
Then,
Then.
now.
Now.
when,
No.
sorry.
Next. Okay, so this happened
After.
first, this happened next. After would be a good one. Okay, so those key words can kind of clue you in too for sequence, or if you're actually breaking something down and putting it in order, those are words that you could use to write your sequence of what happened. So first I did this, then I did this, next I did this, after that I did this, and then lastly I did this. Okay, so those would be some words that you could use to explain or to sequence things. At the bottom there are some strategies and some activities that you can do. It's broken down by the age of your children, so there's an infant toddler section, a preschool section, an elementary section, and then the middle school section. So based on the age of your kids, there's some different things that you can use with that age group to work on sequencing. So you can take a look at that at home. Read the one that's appropriate for the age of your children, and you can work on sequencing that way. Any questions about the sequencing? Okay. I mentioned earlier that we're also going to kind of build upon this and do like a 2 or 3 day lesson doing this. So kind of building upon the sequencing, I'm also going to incorporate next time we're going to go over what we call story elements. So does anybody know what story elements are? Is that a new term?
No.
Story elements are parts that make up a story. So when we talk about story elements, we talk about characters, we talk about the plot or what's happening in the story, we talk about the setting of the story. So those are all story elements because they're all what comes together to make a story. So we'll go over the parts of those next time. But we're going to talk about those and then talk about how those kind of need to go in order and sequencing. And eventually, we're going to have the end product of where you're going to make your own story. So that'll be fun. Another skill that I kind of want to incorporate with this lesson too is predicting. We've talked a little bit about predicting before because you've kind of used that skill with some of the other books that you've read. Can anybody remind me what predicting is?
Like asking what's going to happen next in the story.
Right. And even with the last lesson that we did about watching TV, that was one example we gave, you know, when the commercials came on, ask them what's going to happen next. What do you think is going to happen next when it comes back on? Okay, so kind of incorporate the predicting a little bit more too with the story that you're going to work on, and then with the activities that we're going to do too. So that's kind of a skill we're going to throw in here too. So what you're going to do, here's the second parenting handout on predicting. So it's just some parenting tips on things you can do to help with predicting while you're reading. For practice, so that you'll be able to do this with your children. We started out with the activity where you came up with 3 things of what you did for your morning routine. Now I want you to come up with 3 things that would help to make a schedule for your children in the morning. Okay, so maybe you already have one. Like, maybe your kids already have a routine in the morning. So you're basically doing what you did for yourself, only now you're doing it for your kids. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 sticky notes again, and you're going to come up with the first 3 things either that your child does in the morning or that you would like to start doing with them to kind of get them on a schedule. Okay?
You want it now?
Yes, do it now. This will be your practice, and then I'm going to give you your ILA that you're actually going to do with them then to practice sequencing.
These are what we want him to do, or
Either what you want him to do that you want to try to work on to make a routine for him so that, like, you have this sequence in the morning. You're going to get up, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this when you get up in the morning. Or maybe you already have a routine that works, you know, that you're happy with, that, like, you follow kind of every morning with them, so you can use that too.
Only watching about 15 minutes of TV.
So maybe you have something but it's not working and you would like to change it, so what would you like it to be? Or if you like how it works in the morning, just go with what you have.
Oh, are we putting one there
You
too?
can put those in.
You're blocking me, thank you. I've been trying to leave, but every time I look and I see my stuff, so you're blocking me. And I like that.
Oh, my
My kids will never brush their teeth before they eat, they complain about it.
Yeah, it makes the food yucky.
Uh-huh.
My kid doesn't eat breakfast, so I have to reach out and eat juice.
Neither does Jay. When he gets stressed, we go in the kitchen, brush his teeth, comb his hair, and we go out the door.
He brushes his teeth right before bed too, so that way there's nothing on his teeth for him.
Okay, so let's see what you'll have. I'm going to have you share your own this time. So you're going to tell me what you would do first, next, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the routine that you have. So Sherry, it looks like you're on there first.
Okay, I want him to, he does not go on the potty yet, so that's what I want. But normally he gets up, he goes down, he'll watch TV for about 15 minutes, and then we get dressed and do all this stuff, and off to school he goes. When he gets dressed and he brushes his teeth, he's out the door. He is ready to leave.
Okay, so would you say your routine is working good for you?
Yeah, well, except number 1.
Well, we're working on that one yet, but
Yeah.
but otherwise, like, it seems to work good. He's good with that. Like, he's
Very
ready to
good.
go. He knows his routine every morning.
Mhm.
Good. Okay, so next, Kayla.
Okay, every morning when he gets up, he drinks orange juice, and takes a vitamin.
Okay.
And then, brush teeth, which he gives me a hard time of doing it on his own, which, I mean, he wants me to brush them for him. So we're working on him doing it, like, all by himself.
Okay.
And then, get dressed. He gets dressed, and that's fine. That works out good.
Okay, so you'd say your routine works good too.
Yeah.
So the sequence of your events seems to work well. Good.
Yes.
Okay, Miranda.
All the kids, I wake them up, they get dressed, they eat, and then they go and brush their teeth, and then they get their jackets on and
Okay.
wait for the bus.
Now, how many kids do you have to get ready in the morning?
3.
3, all at the same time.
Yes.
So does this routine work good for you?
Yes.
And having all 3 kids
Yes, because I walk from Corey's room to Jocelyn's room to Caleb's room, get them all up, they all go, and while they're getting dressed and everything, I make their food, I have their food out, and then they go eat, and then they quick go to the bathroom and brush their teeth, and then their jackets are all ready for them, and their book bag, and their folder, and they're out the door.
Alright, Tamara?
She uses the bathroom, she eats breakfast if she's hungry. Most times she's not, and then she'll get dressed and brush her teeth and be ready to go.
And would you say your routine works good too?
Mm-hmm.
And she cooperates good with that? And
The only thing she gives me a hard time about is eating breakfast. She's not never really hungry. in
Jay
the
never
morning.
goes near the kitchen.
do they get
He
breakfast
don't-
here?
Yeah, but he don't eat here.
He won't eat here either.
Sometimes
She'll
he'll eat
pick
lunch.
at it. When she was here, she'd just pick at it.
Yeah, he'll
And
eat
that's
lunch
it.
sometimes, and that's it.
See, my kids, they like to eat something little at home, and then they all get breakfast at
A
school.
big breakfast at school.
Like Caleb, he always wants to have like, I forget. There's North School has like a different breakfast every day for them, and then a cereal if you want a cereal. And then here, Jocelyn goes to the one from Springs. She gets whatever. She hates when they have chicken patties for breakfast.
For breakfast?
Why would
Chicken
they have
patties for
chicken patty for
breakfast?
breakfast?
Yes, they had chicken patties for breakfast like twice.
Oh, wow.
3 times, and she's like,
Oh,
it's
for
not
lunch, yeah.
breakfast.
Yeah.
She's like, it's not breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And she's just like me, where breakfast food is breakfast food, and you can't, like, if they wake up at noon, none of my kids will eat lunch. They will want a breakfast. Like, if they would wake up.
Because that's what happens when I wake up.
Yeah.
So there's kind of an example of sequencing, and they don't like the routine to be mixed up.
Yeah.
They like to stay with that sequence, and that's what works for them.
Uh-huh.
So
But their weekend is different. Like, in the weekend, they wake up, they turn on their TVs, they get to stay in their room and in their pajamas, and then I make them their breakfast, and then they get to go and play. That's
and that
fine.
sequence works but different on the weekend because
Uh-huh.
they have different things that they do.
Yeah.
All right.
For Sundays.
So, any questions about sequencing or anything we've talked about today? All right. So, what you're going to do for the ILA activity, you're going to talk about the schedules that you just did for your children with them. Okay. See if they are able to tell you their first 3 things they do in the morning. Okay. See if they know, and then talk about, kind of explain to them that, okay, we do these things in order. Okay, this is what you do first, this is what you do second, or next, this is what you do after that. Use some of those keywords for sequencing. You don't have to use the word sequencing, because that's a big word for them. But talk about the order, use those words like first, next, then, or first, next, after that. Okay, use those words. And see if they can tell you their steps that they do in the morning. Okay, so talk about that a little bit. And then what you're going to do, you're going to read the book that... Can I just check for something quick? Oh, okay. You're going to read the book together. So it's If You Give a Pig a Pancake. Now, if you're familiar with these stories, it follows sequence, and one thing just kind of leads into another. Okay? So the kids usually love these books, but as you're doing them, kind of talk about the sequencing of the story as well. Use your reading strategies that we've been working on, so maybe do some predictions, do some questions for comprehension, the things that we've talked about already. And then after you're done the story, talk about what would happen if you mixed up the things in the story. Like if you mixed up the sequence of the story, how would that change the story? Okay, so kind of talk about that with them a little bit. After that, I have some pictures cut out of pigs doing different things from the story. You're going to give them all the pictures and work with them to try to put the pictures in order of what happened in the story. So working on the sequencing, okay? So I think there's maybe 5 that I did. So you're going to have 5 pictures. You're going to talk about what's happening in each of the pictures with your children, and then try to have them put them in order. What happened first? Ask them what happened first in the story. And then put that picture first, and then find the thing that happened next in the story. So you're working on sequencing, putting the pictures in order. Okay? And then that will kind of lead into what we're going to do then next time, because then we're going to do what we call, we're going to make a storytelling rope, which will have your story elements on it, which we talked about a little bit earlier, like your setting, your characters, so on. So we're going to make that so we have a guide of what to use for our story elements. And then we'll kind of revisit this story again after we have that figured out. Okay? So for this time, you're just going to read the book, and you're going to work with the pictures to work on sequencing, putting it in order. Before you do that activity, you're going to talk to them a little bit about their routine in the morning, the first 3 things they do, so you can kind of introduce the sequencing a little bit with them.
Okay.
We good?
Yes.
All right. So here's your book. And you guys get to keep these books. You might want to bring them along with you to class next time, because we're going to be referring back to that book with some of the other activities we're going to do. And when we bring them in the next time to do Isla, you'll want to have that probably with you, in case you need to refer back to it. So I'm going to pass these around. Take one of each one that I'm passing around.
Oh my goodness, Sherry, how are you doing so fast?
Multitasking.
I don't understand how.
No, I just,
I'm trying to get caught up and you just keep
sorry.
I want some pancakes.
I know they look good. But maybe the hungry.
I love pancakes. They're my favorite. Cracker Barrel has the best pancakes.
I was going to say, I wish, like, those pancakes
Uh-huh.
look so good. My pancakes get okay at home, but, like, I
They
can
don't
never...
look like on TV.
I can never, I can never
Never.
get them like the restaurants make them. Like
What do you
Cracker
make
Barrel
them?
has such good.
What do you make them
And
on?
they have like that, like it's like they're almost crispy on the end, but they're still so fluffy.
Yeah.
Oh, Louise and Fractal
I've
have these
tried-
gigantic pancakes that are delicious.
My
Oh.
dad used to do that.
Louise,
I've tried making them like I have this griddle thing that I make them on, or I'll use a frying pan.
No,
So
it's
I've
better on
tried
the
like
griddle,
different
on the
ways,
griddle.
different ways to make them, and I still can't get them
yeah.
right. And I've tried different recipes and just everything. I can't do it. Like
I was told that you're supposed to let the griddle get really, really hot, put some butter down, and it basically fries them right away, and then you flip them, and then you don't let that side stay on long enough, but I still can't get it.
yeah.
I've been trying to perfect it for how long to get them like Cracker Barrels, but I just
Yeah.
can't.
And I've even tried like they have the mix that you can buy at Cracker Barrel, and it's
Yeah.
just not the same as when you get it in the restaurant. There's one more thing.
Pancakes, from my opinion.
Oh no, see, pancakes are my favorite.
One more thing that I have to give you. It's called Reading Tic-Tac-Toe. So you can keep this and use it like for not just this lesson, but some of the other lessons that you do as well whenever you're reading with your child. The purpose is, like, you read over all the activities. There's different ways that you can read to your child. You want to choose 3 ways that are going to make tic-tac-toe. So, like, you might want to choose these 3, because that'll give you tic-tac-toe. It'll give you 3 in a row. Or these 3, okay? Choose any 3, but you want them to be in some form that'll give you tic-tac-toe. The first one is just questions that you want to ask them while you're reading. So pick out 3 of the questions that you would ask, like while you're reading the story. The second one is more activities instead of just questions. So like after you read a story, what are 3 things maybe you want them to then do with the book? Okay, so pretend you're going to be the main character in the story for a day. What would you do if you were the main character? Okay, so that would be one thing on here that they would do. All right, so, and then the last one is things you can do as you're reading. So, read the book in a silly voice. Read the book in a loud or a soft voice. Okay, so different things that you can do to kind of change it up as you're reading. One thing I added onto that one too that I had seen somewhere else and it wasn't on there was to read to or with a stuffed animal. Like, kids like preschool age are into pretend play. So
Your what?
if they pretend, yeah, you were talking about that earlier, and I was gonna say something. I'm like, well, I'll wait till. But yeah, her daughter likes to read to the cat. She pretends to read. Now, obviously, she's not reading the story correctly, or you know,
Right.
but she's
But
pretending.
it's like a book really about her and her cat. Like her name's in it, the cat's name's in it. There's pictures of them in it. Like it's really about her and her cat. My aunt got it made for her for Christmas. So she really,
Oh,
so like
a real
she,
cat.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like she sees the pictures of them in there, and
Right.
like so she's just like, oh, we do this or we don't.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
So that's a perfect example of like what you would do here. And a lot of kids at this age, like they have their favorite stuffed animals or whatever. So have them pretend to read. Like obviously they're not going to sit down with this book and be able to read it, but pretend to read the story to the animal, you know, their stuffed animal or whatever, because that's fun for them too, and it makes them feel, what do you say, like older. You know,
Jay
because
reads to melody.
they're being like you know, they're copying you. So
he likes to read the melody.
yeah, or younger siblings, that works too. So I'll give you these, just kind of hang on to them, refer to them, you know, if you want some activities to do while you're reading. You can try some with this book if you want to, but again, kind of do it with other books too that you read with them.
Oh, so this don't come back. It's
This
just
doesn't
like-
have to come back, no. Okay, so we good?
Yes.